wives. All right? Yeah, 5 times. 5 times. So anyhow, Shabtai last week raised the question, which I did a little reading on during the week. Yeah. Shabtai raised a question. We were talking about Yaakov having Ruach HaKodesh. And Shabtai made the point that I said that through Ruach HaKodesh, Yaakov knew that he had to have 12 Shvatim. And Shabtai raised the question, well, if Yaakov knew that, why didn't he know where Yosef was all this time through Ruach HaKodesh? So I did a little reading on Ruach HaKodesh, and I came up probably with the following answer for Shabtai. I hope you'll like it, and for everybody else that's listening. To have Ruach HaKodesh is a tremendous, tremendous gift from Hashem. 99% of us don't, today I guess 100% of us, but 99% of the people didn't have it. Now, Ruach HaKodesh was very, very selective, the way I understand it. HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave you the opportunity to see certain things, but not everything. So the answer, I guess, to your question is he got Ruach HaKodesh knowing that he was going to have 12 Shvatim, but the Ruach HaKodesh did not extend. He wasn't granted the opportunity to really know where Yosef was. Okay, you satisfied with that? Yeah, that's right. Right. And they also say when somebody is in a period of mourning, okay, a period of sadness, the Ruach HaKodesh leaves him. And that might be he never really accepted Yosef's death. So, okay.
Can you have Ruach HaKodesh if you're not a prophet?
Can you have Ruach HaKodesh if you're not a prophet? I don't want to say yes, but I guess, okay, I don't know. It's a good question. I don't know. Anyhow, let's... Prophecy left us. Right. Okay. There was also, all right, let's stay with our topic, okay? Let's stay with our topic. I see a number of new people have joined, and there's a couple of new people here in the shul listening. So just want to go back to set the table for what I want to discuss today. We discussed for a little bit the deal that was offered to Yehuda, and we know the deal, he didn't take it, okay? Let's review the deal very, very quickly. If we go to our handouts, and people at home don't have the handouts, so just listen. Deal number one was once the cup was found in in Binyamin's saddlebags. So Yehuda comes up with a proposal. Take a look at the first page, number one. Asher yimotze ito me'avadecha v'meis, v'gam anachnu niyeh l'adoni la'avodim. Whoever has the cup should suffer the death penalty, and the rest of our brothers, all of us, should be slaves. Now, the response to that was rejected. Vayomer gam atah k'dibrechem kenu, okay, asher yimotze ito yeh, the one who took the cup will become an eved. V'atem tiyu nekiyim. Right. So that was deal number one, choice number one, and obviously that was rejected. Proposal number two, Vayomer Yehuda. Yehuda comes back and says, Manoma ladoni, what can we say to you, Yosef? Manadaber mesadok, Olokim motza savon avadecha, and the deal is, Ine avodim ladoni, he offers himself to be a slave. Gamanachnu gamashem nimtzu ha'gaviyah biyodo. Right? Everybody will become slaves, all 12 brothers. So Yosef responds, Vayomer choliloli, God forbid I should do this, mi'asozos. But ish asher nimtza ha'gaviyah biyodo, hu yelio aved. Okay? Only the one, I'm only interested in the one who's the thief. He should become a slave. V'atem alul shalom al avichem. So he's now offered a deal, Yehuda, we said. okay, that only one of the 12 brothers is going to suffer. It's not the death penalty. One of 12 becomes a servant, and the other 11 can go, or actually, other 10 can go home, okay? Now, we said this was a very, very tempting deal, and we gave reasons to why Yehuda might have accepted this deal, right? It gives him freedom. He can go back to his father and say, I fulfilled my obligation. I got Binyamin out. How do I know that he's going to steal this? I'm not responsible for what he did, right? He can live with his family. He's not a slave, etc., etc. Now, I want to pick up here at this point, and I want to say to you something. Probably the old Yehuda, the Yehuda that we've spent so many weeks talking about, probably might have accepted that deal. Because what did he do? He sold his brother. He didn't care that what he did to his father. He pocketed silver for the sale. He was willing to have Tamar burnt at the stake, right? He lied to Tamar in terms of the promise he kept. He gave her that Shelah would be given to her. So the old Yehuda might have in fact accepted this deal. But the Tzodka Mimeni that he said to Tamar years ago, okay, I said started the whole tshuva process, okay? So the new Yehuda, there was no way he was going to accept this deal, right? So now, I want to read for everybody at home that has some Chumashim in front of them, okay? It's Pashas by Yigash, okay? I'm going to read you up until a little bit after Sheni, which is the epic confrontation between Yehuda and Yosef, okay? And before we get into this, I want to go through those things that we say a leader needs. Okay, let's talk about. I mentioned to you there were 3 steps in the tshuva process, and if Yehuda is going through the final step now in the tshuva process, those 3 steps were: number 1, okay, to recognize the sin that you did, okay. And I think Yehuda, by going back to his family after the whole story of Tamar and establishing some sort of a leadership with the family, realized that he did something wrong. So that plan has been made, has been done. Okay? Vowing not to do it again. Okay? Don't do it again. Okay? So again, now we're going to see how he lives up to that. And 3, the tshuva becomes complete, we said, when you find yourself in the exact same position that you were before when you did the Aveira, and now you're not going to do it. Okay, right? So this is Yehuda now. Okay. Yehuda, the question now becomes, in the same position, he has an opportunity right now to sacrifice or to walk away on the battlefield and to give up on another B'nai Rachel. Remember, we said that constantly the tension between the B'nai Leah and the B'nai Rachel, and this was the story why they originally sold Yosef or did what they did to Yosef. Well, the same situation now exists again. It's another B'nai Rachel, it's Binyamin, that's now, in the same position. He's going to become a slave, right? Number 2, all right? Before, he had no compunction, didn't hesitate to sell Binyamin into slavery. Well, now Yosef is offering him the same deal. Yosef into slavery, right? Now he's being offered the same deal on another brother, selling into slavery. What is he going to do? What is he going to do? Somebody want to say something? No. Okay. And number 3 is, before he was able to walk away and leave a brother on a battlefield, as we say in Israel today. You don't leave a soldier on a battlefield, right? He was ready. He left Yosef on the battlefield. Here he's got an opportunity. Does he leave Binyamin on the battlefield? Again, does he walk away, regardless of what's going to happen to him? So he finds himself in the exact same position now that he found himself in 22 years before with the whole Maisa of Yosef, right?
Interesting.
Interesting, okay? And now what's going to happen, he's going to complete this Pasha in Vayigash and his toe-to-toe confrontation with Yosef is going to complete the tshuva process. And it's going to establish Yehuda as a leader for generations and generations. That he will be the one. It's going to culminate ultimately in Yaakov. We'll see two little pieces in Vayechi. It's going to culminate in the Yaakov's bracha to him that he's going to be a king, all right, and a few other things. So let's go. Now, Yehuda has a big job on his hands right now as we approach this. He's got Yosef, and we said Yosef's made him a deal. He doesn't know who Yosef is, that he's brother. He's made him a deal. As far as Yosef is concerned, he has his agenda. But this year we're not concerned about Yosef. We're concerned really about Yehuda. But Yosef has an agenda, all right? And Yehuda somehow has to convince him to free up Binyamin, to give him back Binyamin. Now, we identified in the last couple of shiurim at least 5 attributes of a successful leader. Okay, and I want you to keep these in mind. I'll run through them very quickly. And I want you to keep these in mind when we talk about how Yehuda is now going to approach Yosef in his speech, all right? Number 1, we said timing and patience. Right? Maybe that won't be too much of that. We won't see too much of that in Vayigash, but certainly timing and patience. All right. Number 2, persistence. Persistence. All right. Yosef rebuffed him already twice. Okay. Twice Yosef turned down the deal, but Yehuda does not walk away because Yehuda's ultimate goal is he's got to get Binyamin out. So he's going to show the whole speech in Vayigash is persistence, right? Number 3, persuasion. We spoke over and over again that a leader has a lot of power. He can command armies, he can make legislation, but the most powerful part of a leader, a successful leader, is he has to be able to persuade the people that he leads, all right? Without that, you're not a good leader. Number 4 is the content of your words. What you say to people determines and how you bring it out. And number 5 is the ability to read reactions of those you seek to convince or influence. And we'll see that throughout the whole Vayigash speech. And finally, number 6, establishing a feeling of trust. So with those in mind, I want to go through Vayigash with you. Now I have to be very careful here with Vayigash because there are pages and pages of Chazal of what really Yosef was saying, what Yehuda was saying to Yosef, all right? And whichever one you want to go is probably correct. I want to do my way, okay, to lead it till we go. So, Vayigash, I love Yehuda. Until now, Yehuda had prostrated himself. He was calling him Adoni. He was laying on the ground, and he was begging, all right? When Yosef turns him down a second time, Vayigash, I love Yehuda, Yehuda gets up, okay, and he approaches him. Now, approaching a leader, can you say he got in his face? It could be a very negative or a positive thing to approach a leader. So how you approach a leader is very important. Vayomer, and he says, Bi Adoni, the humble part. Look at all the times he's going to refer to Yosef as his Adoni, and how many times he's going to refer to himself, Yehuda, as an Eved. All right. Vayigash, I love Yehuda, Vayomer, Bi Adoni. Yedaber no avdecha dava bi'oznei Adoni. I want to have a conversation with you, a frank conversation. Vayichal avcha bi'abdecha. Don't get angry at me. Let's not show any anger. Let's have an intelligent conversation. Ki kamocha kafaro. Just on that sentence, ki kamocha kafaro, what did he mean? So according to some Chazal, it was an insulting thing, just like Paro is a liar, and just like Paro can't be trusted, you can't be trusted. But I want to put it in a different way. Ki chamocha kafaro. Just like Paro is a very, very powerful man, and the thing of life and death is in his hands. The life and death of Binyamin is in your hands. Okay. Adoni sha'alas avodav le'mol. Okay. You Yosef asked. Yesh lechem abawach. Now, what's going to happen here is that Yehuda is going to manipulate an entire conversation and come up with half facts that really never happened. And he's going to place the onus, he's going to try to make Yosef the guilty party in all of this. If we go through the text, which I don't want to do, you'll have to believe me. Adoni sho'alas abodav le'mod, hayesh lechem abawach. Yosef never asked them when they came down, do you have brothers or do you have a father? Okay, the brothers volunteered it to him when Yosef accused them of being a spy. It was the brothers that said, no, we're 11 brothers and we have an older father. So Yosef never ever raised that question to him, right? But no Manel Adoni, so we said to you, Yesh lanu abzakein, we have an old father. Okay, we have an elderly father. Yehuda now is going to try to build some sympathy in and around Yaakov. Notice, in this entire speech, he's never going to mention Binyamin's name. His goal is to get Binyamin out of slavery, to free Binyamin, but he's never going to mention Binyamin by name, and he's never going to talk about what Binyamin did to take the cup. It's not going to be on Yehuda's agenda. A very, very intelligent speech. And by father, notice he's not going to describe his father. He's going to describe his father in the most sympathetic of terms that you can. So it's not, okay, yesh lanu of. It's not lanu yesh lo of. It's yesh lanu of zarkain. For some reason, throughout the entire narrative, and the brothers can't figure it out, okay, Yosef has shown some extraordinary desire to know what's going on with Yaakov. Is your father well? Or how is your father feeling? Okay. And the brothers can't figure this out, because who is this guy who's constantly asking him about Yaakov? He's never met Yaakov. As far as they know, there's no relationship to him. But Yosef seems to have some sort of a soft spot for Yaakov, and the brothers don't know why. So Yehuda's got to figure this out. Look, there's some weakness in this man that is constantly asking for the welfare of our father. So I'm going to play to that. So yesh lanu ob zarkain, we have an older father. Okay? Yelad zikunim katan, and in his old age, right, he has a child. Okay, be achiv meis, right? And he was left alone to his mother, but his mother's not alive. Okay, but he's building up some sympathy that what Yosef is planning to do is going to wreck the entire family.
Was Binyamin yet really Yelad Katan at that time?
It was not a Yelad Katan at the time, okay?
Okay, but he says Yelad Katan. Why is he saying?
Okay, because he's trying somehow to evoke some sort of sympathy, all right? Yeah, all right. But so you said to us, so we do Eloi. Well, see me, I want to take a look at him, right? They never really said that to Yaakov, to Yosef. Yaakov was the one that says, I'm not sending him. Okay? But again, he's manipulating the facts in such a way that Yosef is going to feel guilty for what he did.
But how can the Torah put anything on that?
When you meet the person who wrote the Torah, ask him. All right?
That's not funny.
It's not a question of funny. I'm reading it to you.
How can the Torah put on things that are not correct?
That it's correct in the sense that that's what Yehuda is saying. They're not misquoting Yehuda. It's Yehuda that is misquoting Yosef. V'atomer elav, so you responded, Lo yered achichem hakotel nechem, lo sosifu l'ros panai. A true statement. If you don't come down with your brother, don't bother coming down at all. Vayihi kol lino alav dechavi, when we went back home and we said to our father, Vanaged lo, we repeated, Eis divrei Adoni, Vayomer Rabinu, Shuvu shivru lonu miyat ochel. The response was, I need food. We can't go back down. No. A factual statement. He explains to them that if you want food, the only way you're going to get food is we have to go back down and we have to bring Binyamin with us. That you know the history. Rachel bore me two children. Right? And he's explaining if Yaman, reason why he couldn't come because Yaakov is very, very afraid that he's going to have an accident on the way. All right, and if then he'll be bereft of all the children from Rachel. Now, when I come back to my father, right, and the child is not with us, right, that one soul is bound up with the other. I just want you to remember, because I'm going to talk a little bit more about the nafsho kishua v'nafsho, right? Okay, if he doesn't see the child, he will die. He will die. And the gray hairs of our servant father will go down into the grave in sorrow. Right? Then Yehuda says, Ki adecho araves hana'ar. I myself have given a guarantee to my father. All right? Imlo avi enu elech v'chatasilavi kol hayomim. Right? The tshuva v'ato yeshev no adecho tachas hanar. I am now pledging myself as a b'nei Leah to take the place of a b'nei Rachel. I will pledge, take me and let Binyamin go. Okay? Right? How am I going to go home? I will become responsible. I will see the evil that's going to happen to my father. Okay? So a couple of things. All right, just as a sidebar, in all of this conversation, Yehuda, Yosef is referred to Yaakov is referred to an Eved, right? 10 times. Yosef lost 10 years of his life. He lived 110. He's supposed to make it to 120. But the fact that he allowed Yaakov to be called an Eved, Avdecha Avi, right, etc., he lost 10 years. But all right. So, of the six things, okay, persuasion. Has he persuaded Yosef? Guys, this is a persuasive speech. Did he find the right words? The next pasuk, below Yochol Yosef l'sapek. Obviously, he did. Whatever he said to Yosef, the content of his words, establishing a feeling of trust, the ability to read reactions, all of these things were present in this speech that Yehuda makes. And for some reason, he is able to move Yosef off of his desire to keep Binyamin, right? Now, Yosef also had his agenda, which we didn't speak about, because the question becomes, why did Yosef put his brothers through all of this? He put it through a lot. He caused a lot of aggravation to the family by doing what he did constantly, right? He put Yaakov. Why did he do this?
He wanted to see how the brothers behave now.
Good, very good. So good. So Carl is saying he wanted to see how the brothers were going to behave. a little bit more better is he wanted to see, number one, is this whole rift between the Bnei Rachel and the Bnei Leah going to be healed? And more important than that, he wanted to see if the brothers really, really felt sorry for what they did to him 22 years earlier. And in fact, were they going to do tshuva? So whether it was the speech of Yehuda that moved Lo Yochel Yosef Lehisapek, whether it was that speech, or whether it was the recognition finally of that the brothers, that everybody have accomplished a mutual goal. Yehuda's goal at this point was, I don't think his goal was to do tshuva, because that's something you're not, I think his goal was to get Binyamin out, all right? So he's accomplishing that, all right? And Yosef's goal was to make sure the brothers did tshuva. So he's accomplished that now by what came out of Yehuda's mouth, okay? All right? So we have a happy, happy ending to this story, all right? So Yosef reveals himself, okay? And theoretically, the family is back together again, all right? Now, the term v'nafsho k'shura v'nafsho. It's only one time in the entire Tanakh one time in the entire Tanakh that v'nafsho k'shura v'nafsho appears. There's one other time where v'nafsho. So with David Yonatan. So the question now becomes, those that have come to my shiurim over the years know we do something that's called intertextuality. Remember what intertextuality is? When you see thoughts and ideas and words in the Torah and Tanakh that appear in one place and are very, very similar to where words appear in another place, the Torah wants to link these two stories. They want to tell you that there's a tremendous, tremendous linkage between the two stories. So now let's go to the last page in your handout. So how can that be? We will soon see how it could be, okay? And hopefully when I'm done, Ada, you'll say to me, Marty, that was very, very good, okay? So let's go back. Okay, let's go to the last page in the handouts, all right? At the very, very end of the famous story of David and Goliath, all right? The Goliath is on top of a mountain, and he's yelling, and he's cursing the Jews, and he's telling them, you're all chickens. I'm looking for somebody to come out and fight me 1-on-1, and you're all cowards, and this is going on for days. And nobody from Shaul's army is going out to meet him until one day David comes along, and he says, I'll do it, okay? Right? Okay? And he goes, and he does this, and he defeats, we all know the story, he defeats Goliath. He severs his head, and he walks back to the army. He walks back with Goliath's head in his hand. Okay? So, when all of this is done, okay, it happened, all right? He wants to know, he comes back. Avner, the general at the time, takes him to Shaul, and he says the follow. And he gives him, thing. When David is finished speaking to Shaul and telling him how he defeated Goliath, b'nefesh Yehonasan nikshara b'nefesh David. Okay? Same thing, right? Vayaveyu Yehonasan kenafsho. Right? Out of the clear blue, we're told in the Torah, right, that what? That Yehonasan loves David. He loves him very, very much, right? Till this time they were friends, but now, okay. So what happens? I'm sorry. Okay, so Shaul then says to him, "Vayomer elav Shaul, ben mi'ator hanar." Look at number 3. The same page, number 3. So Shaul says to him, Ben Miato, which is a very, very strange thing, because certainly Shaul knows David. Okay, David had played the harp for him. David had been with him for many, many times before, but yet Shaul says, whose son are you, my boy? Not who are you, which would be the normal question. Ben miator, the word ben. By Yoma David, and David answers him, Ben Abdecha Yishai Beis Halachmi. I am the son of Yishai who comes from Bethlehem, from Bethlehem. Okay? Let's keep that aside. Why did he answer? What was the question and what was the answer? By Yikocheu Shaul, so Shaul look at number 4 now. By Yomahu, so Shaul says to him, I'm not letting you go anymore. Okay, I really value you. Okay, lo nisano lo shuv beis aviv, and he did not allow him to go home. All right, didn't allow him to go home. So let's lay some groundwork here. Shaul comes from what Shevet? Binyamin, right? David comes from what Shevet? Yehuda. So we have a Binyamin and we have a Yehuda story here again, right? Okay. Binyamin we have is what? Is a Beit, is a Ben. Come on. He's a Ben Rachel. Now we can understand Shaul's question, Ben Miato. Who are you from? And he says, I'm from Yehuda. Yishai, Beis Lachem Yehuda. So we're establishing here that there's a whole conversation going on between Shaul, who's from Binyamin, who's from Bet, who's from Rachel, and Yehuda, who is from, and from David, who is from Yehuda, who is from Ben Leah. And in a sense, possibly, Shaul can't understand this because there's always been an enmity between the base Rachel, the Ben Rachel, and the Bnei Yehuda, and the Bnei Leah. So this is now, again, all right? Okay. V'yich ros Yehona's son v'David b'rispa so kenafsho. Right? Look at number 5. So Yehona's son and David make a little bit of a treaty with each other or an agreement, okay? Because they loved each other like their own selves. What was the problem with the Bnei Rachel and the Bnei Leah when we first introduced to them? They didn't love each other. They hated each other. Lo yachlu dabro l'shalom. They couldn't speak peace to each other. Okay? Okay? So, again, hamaloch timloch aleinu. Right? Shaul's the king. All right? Theoretically, who should be the next king after Shaul? Yonah's son. So Yonah's son is giving up the kingship here in a sense to David, right? Well, but he's agreeing to it. Now look at this next sentence. Just look at this next sentence. Vayispashet Yonah's son es ha'me'il asher alav vayitneu leDavid. Not only do we have nafsho keshua v'nafsho, we have a me'il. What was the whole centerpiece in the Yosef story? They brought back what? They brought back a me'il. They brought back a kesonas pasim. Now, what is Yehona's son doing as a Bnei Rachel? He's giving his coat. He's giving a coat back to Yehuda. He's giving the coat back. So we have resonance all the way back to what we were talking about. Nafsho keshua b'nafsho, right? Okay. The brother said, "Vayomru lo echav hamaloch timloch oleinu imashol timshol bonu vayosifu otzeno oso." Okay. Lo yachlu dabro l'shalom. That was the two problems. One was afraid. Now look what's happening here. There's no issue anymore about hamaloch timloch aleinu. Here, just the opposite is happening. The Bnei Rachel is voluntarily giving up. Yehona's son is giving up any pretensions of kingship. He's giving this over to David. As a matter of fact, I didn't include it, but later on, what will happen is when Shaul becomes deranged, depressed, whatever happens to him later in life, he will turn to Yehona's son and he will say to Yehona's son, you fool, you idiot, do you know what you just did? Okay, you have to be the next king and you're giving the kingship up. Are you stupid? Okay, right? Okay, Malchut Chodesh, that's the whole Haftorah of Malchut Chodesh in and about that. So here we see we have one what you call it, where this Nafsho Kishuv and Nafsho is going to play out for generations. But I want to end, but I want to do, not end, but I want to do one more thing. In the Megillah, okay? Megillah Esther, okay? Look at number 9. Look at number 9. Look what's happening here in number 9, okay? Megillah innocently says, Ish Yehudi Hayah B'Shushan Habirah, Ushemo Mordechai Ben Yair Ben Shimi Ben Kish Ish Yemini, right? The Torah goes through 4 or 5 generations by already mentioning what you call it, Ben Kish and Ish. Okay, we know where Kish came from. Okay, so why does the Torah have to go to Ish Yemini, that he came from Binyamin? All right, and I think the Megillah is trying to make a point here. Going back to number 8, what was the end result of the brothers not being able to get along? Lo yochlu dabro l'shalom. They couldn't even speak civilly to each other, right? There was no civil conversations between the two of them, okay? And that was caused, they couldn't breach the gap between them because they couldn't talk. Look at the last pasuk now in the Megillah. Ki Mordechai HaYehudi, right? Mishnah LaMelech Achashverosh, came number 2 man in the kingdom, okay? The Gadol HaYehudim, he was a great personality amongst the Jews. The Ratzu L'Robechov, okay, and he was liked, okay, by most of his people, most of his brothers, okay. Diber Tov Li'amo, Diber Shalom L'Chozaro. Years later in the Megillah, the problem with the Lo Yochlu Dabro L'Shalom, okay, the B'nai will be finally put back together again. The Dover Shalom L'Chozaro. The brothers will be able, and who is this brought about by? Ish Yehudi and somebody from Binyamin. Binyamin will return the favor of Yehuda's getting him out of prison. Okay, years, Mordechai will be the one to pay that back, and the breach between the Bnei Rachel and the Bnei Leah will finally be the Lo Yochlu Dabro L'Shalom, the Diber Shalom L'Chol Zaro. Okay, so that's okay. No,
Marty, that's all that's left. The 10 tribes. That's all that's left. Binyamin and Yehuda, because the 10 tribes have been exiled by the Chaldeans.
Okay. Yes. The point being, Sarah.
It's easy to make peace with the remnant that's left. What's difficult is for all of them to be peaceful, all 12.
Sarah, you want to come to a board meeting or a membership meeting in the shul? We're all from Yehuda and Binyamin. You want to see how much peace there is? You want to see how much peace there is? How easy it is?
It was always peace when you were president.
There was always peace when I was president. No, there wasn't. You forget. There's a point, okay. Go ahead. Shabtai is raising a question here. Not to everybody.
And in the end, L'chol Zarot. It took a long time to start link everything.
Okay, but don't ruin what I said. Okay. So let's go on. I want to finish up a couple of more points. Getting back to the whole Yehuda story, I think Yehuda is pretty much solidified after he's able to deliver Binyamin, bring Binyamin back to the family. The family reunites, as we know, in Mitzrayim. So let's go page 78 of your handouts. Those of you that have a chumash at home, I think this is probably towards the end of Vayigash, right?
Okay,
Yes, Yehuda is a pasuk.
right.
Yes, Yehuda shalach lefonav al Yosef. Before Yaakov is able to go down to Mitzrayim, he sends Yehuda to go down before him. Right? Shalach lefonav, horos lefonav goshno. Okay, this is Yaakov's first admission, or that Yehuda is in fact become the leader of the family, that he puts the most trust in him. All right, not any other brother, but Yehuda. He sends the horos lefonav goshno by Yavo out of Goshen. Now, why did he send Yehuda down there before all the other brothers? I mean, figure his family has to travel together, but no, he sends Yehuda. Carla? To check it out. But what was he checking out? What was he going to find out there? The supermarket there, good movies. What was he going to find out?
The land,
The land. What? But what? A little more. Come on, Carla.
because actually, dedicated, told them that's your place. You're gonna be in Goshen. Why did they have to check?
No, that happened. That happened later. That happened a little bit later.
Joseph said it, not the king.
Huh?
Joseph put them there.
All right. One, they needed decent land for their cattle, and they were rich people.
Joseph proposed that. Joseph proposed
Yes,
that.
yes. But why did Yaakov, whatever you want to do, why did Yaakov send him out? What was the purpose of sending Yehuda before everybody else? Okay, and what was Yehuda's mission going to be there? What was Yehuda going to do there? Look up at supermarkets, movie houses, kosher restaurants. What was he going to do down there? Okay. So Rashi makes a very, very startling comment, which, I, in my limited knowledge of what Rashi's trying to say, I have difficulty with, but he sent them down there to set up yeshivas. Seriously, to set up. Now, come on. Go when you meet Rashi, argue with him, all right?
But somebody gotta build that yeshiva. It's
Correct,
a place.
right?
It's
So,
a
I want to say he was sending him down.
area.
I want to say he was sending him down there. And I'll ask you a better question. Who is going to be the Rebbe there? Yeah, who's going to be the Rebbe there? All right. When you meet Rashi, you'll argue with him, okay? All right. I think he was. Give me a chumash there. Can I read it right behind you? There's a chumash. But I think what he was saying, that what he was doing there was he was sending him down. Look, Yaakov was going into a very, very strange and different environment. All right, people in Mitzrayim were not necessarily known to be the most moral people in the world. So I think what he was sending Yehuda down there, and he had enough trust in Yehuda, was to find out if at least the land that they were going to live, who were they going to live with? What were their neighbors going to be like in terms of were they going to be, a moral type of people?
Didn't they trust Joseph that he's gonna send them somewhere in a good
They
place?
didn't know it was Yosef. They didn't know it was Yosef.
If they didn't know, they knew that it was Joseph and
No, they didn't. At that time they did.
All right.
they sent all the carriages and just to go pick him up. No, it happened now after he spoke.
When
He
somebody goes to
recognized it.
business, you have to do research.
All right. Judah's mission. Jacob sent Judah ahead of the family to make the proper arrangements for their arrival and settlement in Goshen. Okay. The Medrash interprets the horos as means to teach, which implies that Jacob dispatched Yehuda to Goshen to establish a house of study. Right? So that's what Rashi said. Okay. This sets a precedent for all Jewish history. Historically, the first priority of Jewish communities has always been Torah education. The soul of the nation is the Torah, and without it, we are not a nation. Okay? So,
But no Matan Torah yet. How did they have Torah?
so they did have a yeshiva of Shem and Aver, right? What were they learning all those years in the yeshiva of Shem and Aver?
Where was it?
You have
Where
no
was that
idea.
yeshiva, Shem and Abel?
Uh-huh.
There's no Torah yet.
Was it in Egypt? No. Where
Huh?
was the yeshiva of Shem and Abel?
Yeah, they said that. They need some
Oh,
after the
that
Akedah.
was-
Where was it?
After the Akedah, they put.
No, she wants to know the physical location. She wants to send a donation to the yeshiva of Shem and Aver. She wants to know where to send a check to.
In Chandrika.
It's a male and a male.
Yeah, but
Okay.
you know, in this storm, Shalom Aleichem, they've
All right. I want to do one more piece, one more little piece. Okay. And that's in Pashas Vayechi, where Yaakov is giving the brachas. Okay. Yaakov is giving the brachas to all the children. Okay. And I want to particularly focus on the bracha very quickly in the 10 minutes or so that's left. Okay. We'll go through it quickly, which establishes, you know, Yehuda for all time as the kingship is going to come from him. So Yaakov says, Yehuda, Ata Yoducha Achecha. You, Yehuda, your brothers. Now, what does Yoducha mean? Different shot. What does it mean?
Well, thank you.
The brothers will thank you. What are they going to thank him for?
I know, but that's what Lahodot means.
Okay. All right. The Hodot, could it be also a couple of other meetings? Okay. All right. Your brother shall give in Yoda to you.
recognize your power.
Not if you.
Brothers will give in to you. You're not like the others. All of your brothers Yoda will admit that you deserve respect. Right? Right. Yodcha bi'oref oivecha. Okay? Right? Also, Yehuda, before we go into this, Hoda'ah was also to admit something, right? He admitted that he was wrong with Tamar. Okay. All right. Okay. All right. Also, Ato Yoducha Achecha. In other words, in the future, he's saying that Jews are not going to be known as Reuvenites. They're not going to be known as Shimonites. But they're going to be known as what? Yehudim. Yehudim. Okay. Ato Yoducha Achecha. Yodcha bi'oref oivecha. Your hand will be on your enemy's neck. Okay. Again, he's saying you're going to be strong. You're going to be a warrior, right? You're going to be like a king. Who do you bow down to? You bow down to a king. All right? Yehuda, you're going to be like a lion. What? A lion is very, very powerful. You know, in the Mazalot or each Shevet has some sort of a symbol. Yehuda's symbol is always going to be the lion, right? Right? Okay. You overcame this whole thing, Torof Yosef. You ultimately was the savior. I don't know in terms of biology of what the behavior of a lion is, but when I read the pshat here, it means that a lion, when it sees its prey and it attacks, is very, very patient, has a certain level of patience, and it knows exactly when to pounce, when the appropriate thing is. I always thought that the lion is the king of the beasts, wasn't afraid of anything, but from what I read, they say when a lion is hungry, when a lion is out hunting, he stalks, he waits until the proper time and then pounces. And here now he finally says, Lo Yasur Shevet Yehuda. Okay, Lo Yasur Shevet Yehuda. Now this is not an absolute because we know Shaul came from Binyamin, and there were periods of times where there were not leaders not from Yehuda. Okay, especially during the period of the Shoftim. Each of the tribes had a Shofet at one time or another. You know, Shimshon came from Don, I think, and Gideon came from Manasseh, all right? But long term, Lo Yasur Shevet Yehuda, Mechokek Mibein Raglov. Not only that, Mechokek, the people who will inhabit the Sanhedrin, all right, in the future, the lawgivers, okay? They say if they did a study, most of them came from Shevet Yehuda. Most of the members of the Sanhedrin came from Shevet Yehuda. Right? Ad ki yavo Shiloh, okay, Ad ki yavo Shiloh, until the Mashiach. Shiloh is the Mashiach. Until Mashiach comes, right? Lo yitasami, right? Lo yitasami. And when the Mashiach comes, okay, we'll all be what we believe. We'll all be gathered together, right? And we'll, okay. Yes, what?
Where does it say that Shiloh is the name of the Mashiach?
Where does it say?
Does it say the Lebanon?
What I will do, I don't want to go through it because it's very, very lengthy. I'll tell you where to go. Go to Mayam Loes. In the library, there's a Mayam Loes. Go to this Pasha. You'll see 3 or 4 pages written on what Shiloh is and exactly that Shiloh is the Mashiach. Okay? All right. No, but I want you to read it to really understand it. Okay? Oshvila Gefeni Ro Velaso Rei Kobani also know. Okay? That Yehuda is going to be a very, very wealthy tribe. His vineyards will overproduce. He will have very, very productive lands. Okay. Okay. Yehuda is going to be successful in everything that he does. Right? So we've come a long way. Right? I want to sum up. I had something here that remember when the Chama, professor that was here a couple of weeks ago, on Zoom, the Chama Price.
Nechama
Price.
Excellent.
Yes. Excellent, right?
Yes.
I want to sum up. I did a summary now. I can't find it in my notes in terms of how she describes Yehuda. Please give me a minute to read it to you because I thought it was very, very worthwhile. I took this from her sefer, but I can't find my notes now. Stupid me. Okay. I will get it in a minute. Savlanot. She writes as follows. I'm getting to it. You'll excuse me. All right, I can't find it now. If you're, here it is. She says this episode of Yehuda encapsulates Yehuda's unique leadership traits. He is fearless in the face of confronting authority. He knows how to control the dialogue and gets into the heads and hearts of his audience. And he persists until he attains the desired results. This is Yehuda. She's referring back to the whole confrontation between Yehuda and Yosef. However, the story is even more powerful when viewing it in comparison to Yehuda's actions during the sale of Yosef, Rachel's older son. His absolute commitment to protecting Binyamin in Egypt may indicate Yehuda's repentance, remember tshuva, repentance for the sin of selling Yosef. Unlike that ordeal from his past when he allowed Yosef to be sold and lost presumably forever, Yehuda now fearlessly stands up for Binyamin even at the risk of his own life. He recognizes that the children of Rachel are irreplaceable to his father, and therefore he must fight for their safety. Yehuda accomplishes here what he was unable to do previously. He prevents Yaakov from losing his son of his favorite wife, Rachel. And that's the godless of Yehuda. Now, what I want to do next week, God willing, is I want to go through Chamishe Chumshe Sorah and pick out all the leaders that came from Shevet Yehuda. Because from now to David, there's a straight line of Yehuda's progeny jumping into positions of leadership. So I want to talk about Nachshon ben Aminadab, who came from Yehuda, I want to talk about Chur, Aharon and Chur. Chur came from Yehuda. And I want to talk about other great people in Betzalel came from Yehuda. We want to talk to see if what about all these great leaders during the period of the 40 years when Bnei Yisrael was in the Midbar, what exactly traits these people continued from Yehuda and carried over to David. Ultimately, I want to, before we get into Navi, I want to talk also about the bracha that Moshe Rabbeinu gave to Yehuda also, and how that would resonate throughout history. So everybody have a good week, okay? Hopefully when we come back, some of us will have had their second shots. And if you haven't had your first shot, all I can say to